You know what's funny? Every guy I know thinks he's broken because he can't get excited about climbing some corporate ladder or buying a bigger house in the suburbs. Like there's something wrong with him because the whole American dream thing feels hollow as hell. Picture yourself sitting in your car after another pointless meeting, staring at the office building, wondering why you feel dead inside even though you're supposedly doing everything right. You've got the job, you're paying the bills, maybe even saving some money, but something's eating at you. It's like you're playing a game where everyone else seems to know the rules, but nobody bothered to tell you that the game itself might be rigged. You go home, scroll through social media, see other guys posting about their hustle and their grind, and you think, what's wrong with me? Why don't I feel that fire? Here's what I want you to think about. What if the reason you feel like you're failing isn't because you're weak or lazy or unfocused? What if it's because you've been trying to win at a game that was designed to keep you running in circles? Look, I'm going to say something that might sting, but somebody needs to. The system you've been taught to chase wasn't built for your fulfillment. It was built for your compliance. Every metric of success you've been handed since you were a kid, the grades, the college, the career path, the house, the car, the retirement plan, all of it was designed by people who needed you to be predictable, manageable, and most importantly, dependent. Think about it. When you were growing up, did anyone ever sit you down and say, hey, what actually makes you come alive? What problems do you want to solve? What kind of man do you want to become? Nah. They handed you a template. Go to school, get good grades, go to college, get a job, work for 40 years, retire, die. And if you questioned it, you were labeled as difficult or unrealistic. Here's the thing that nobody wants to admit. This template was never about creating strong, independent men. It was about creating reliable consumers and compliant workers. Every step of the process is designed to keep you too busy, too tired, and too distracted to ask the real questions. Why do you think they call it a rat race? Because it's designed to keep you running, not to get you anywhere meaningful. The most damaging part? They convinced you that your resistance to this system was a character flaw. You feel restless in your cubicle? You must lack discipline. You can't get motivated by quarterly targets? You must be lazy. You'd rather spend time thinking, creating, or building something meaningful? You must be impractical. They turned your healthy instincts into shame. Edward Bernays, the guy who basically invented modern propaganda, wrote about this nearly a century ago. He called it engineering consent, the systematic manipulation of public opinion to serve corporate and political interests. Bernays understood that if you could control what people wanted, you could control their behavior. And the easiest way to do that was to create a standardized definition of success and then make everyone chase it. But here's where it gets really twisted. Bernays didn't just want to sell you products. He wanted to sell you an identity. He figured out that if he could make you believe that buying certain things or achieving certain milestones would make you into the man you wanted to be, then you'd never stop chasing. You'd always be one purchase away from happiness, one promotion away from feeling worthy. The philosopher Slavoj Žižek takes this even further. He argues that modern capitalism doesn't just exploit your labor, it exploits your fantasies. The system needs you to believe that the next level of consumption or achievement will finally give you what you're looking for. But it's designed to never deliver. Because the moment you actually feel satisfied, you stop consuming. You stop climbing. You stop being useful to the machine. Alan Watts saw this coming decades ago. He talked about how Western society had turned life into a goal-oriented game, where the point was always to get somewhere else, achieve something more, become someone different. He called it the backwards law, the idea that the more desperately you pursue something, the more elusive it becomes. Watts understood that when you're constantly chasing external validation, you lose touch with what actually matters to you. These guys weren't conspiracy theorists. They were observers of human nature who saw how easily people could be manipulated when you gave them the right carrot to chase. And the carrot they chose was a very specific version of masculinity: the provider, the achiever, the guy who proves his worth through external accomplishments. Truth number one: your exhaustion isn't laziness. It's your soul rejecting a life that doesn't fit. When you feel drained by work that doesn't challenge you, relationships that don't see you, or goals that don't excite you, that's not a bug in your system. That's a feature. Your exhaustion is information. It's your internal compass telling you that you're pointed in the wrong direction. But instead of listening to it, you've been taught to override it with caffeine, motivation videos, and guilt. Think about the last time you felt truly energized. I'm willing to bet it wasn't when you hit some arbitrary target that someone else set for you. It was probably when you were solving a problem that mattered to you, creating something that came from inside you, or connecting with someone who actually saw you. Your energy is telling you something important, but the system has trained you to ignore it. Truth number two: your need for meaning isn't weakness, it's intelligence. The system wants you to believe that wanting your work to matter, your relationships to be deep, and your life to have purpose is some kind of luxury that you can't afford. They tell you to be realistic, to pay your dues, to think about your future. But what they're really saying is, stop asking for your life to make sense. Men who demand meaning are dangerous to a system that runs on meaninglessness. If you start asking why you're doing what you're doing, you might stop doing it. If you start evaluating your choices based on what fulfills you rather than what's expected of you, you become unpredictable, and unpredictable people are harder to control. Truth number three: your isolation isn't antisocial, it's protective. You've learned that most social interactions require you to perform a version of yourself that doesn't feel real. At work, you have to pretend to care about things that bore you. In social settings, you have to act interested in conversations that feel shallow. With family, you have to play roles that were assigned to you when you were too young to refuse them. So you retreat. You spend time alone. You avoid social events. You keep your deeper thoughts to yourself. And then the system tells you that you're antisocial, that you need to put yourself out there more, that you're missing out on opportunities. But what if your withdrawal isn't pathological? What if it's wisdom? What if you're protecting something valuable inside yourself from being diluted or corrupted by interactions that don't serve you? The most isolated men I know aren't antisocial. They're selectively social. They're waiting for connections that are worth the energy it takes to maintain them. They're preserving their authenticity in a world that rewards performance. And instead of being celebrated for their discernment, they're made to feel like there's something wrong with them. If you keep trying to win at someone else's game, here's what happens. You wake up at 45, maybe 50, and realize you've built a life that looks good on paper but feels empty in your chest. You've got the career, the house, maybe even the family, but you don't recognize the man in the mirror. You've been so busy becoming what everyone else needed you to be that you forgot who you actually are. I've seen this happen to too many guys. They spend their 20s and 30s grinding, hustling, proving themselves to people who don't even know them. They sacrifice their health, their relationships, their peace of mind, all for the promise that someday it'll pay off. Someday they'll feel successful. Someday they'll feel worthy. Someday they'll feel like enough. But that day never comes, because the game is rigged to keep you hungry. There's always another level to reach, another milestone to hit, another version of yourself to become. The goalposts keep moving, and you keep running, and the saddest part is that you start to believe that this emptiness is just what being an adult feels like. You become one of those guys who talks about how life is hard, and that's just the way it is. You develop this cynical edge, this resignation that passes for wisdom. You tell younger guys to be realistic and work within the system, because the alternative, admitting that you wasted years of your life chasing something that was never real, is too painful to face. Your relationships suffer because you don't know how to connect authentically anymore. You've been performing for so long that you've forgotten what it feels like to just be yourself with another person. Your friendships become transactional. Your romantic relationships become about roles and expectations rather than genuine connection. You become emotionally unavailable, not because you're strong, but because you're exhausted from pretending. And here's the killer. You pass this on. Your kids, your younger colleagues, the guys who look up to you, they see your resignation and think it's maturity. They see your compliance and think it's responsibility. They learn to chase the same hollow metrics that left you feeling empty. The cycle continues. First step, start auditing your energy. For the next week, pay attention to what gives you energy and what drains it. Not what you think should energize you, not what used to energize you, but what actually affects your energy right now. Write it down. Most guys have never done this basic inventory of their own experience. They're so disconnected from their internal signals that they don't even know what makes them come alive. When you notice something that energizes you, ask yourself, is this something I'm naturally drawn to, or is this something I've been told I should want? There's a huge difference between authentic desire and conditioned desire. Authentic desire feels like curiosity, excitement, or deep satisfaction. Conditioned desire feels like pressure, obligation, or the need to prove something. Second step, question every should in your life. Every time you catch yourself thinking, I should do this, or I should want that, stop and ask, says who? Most of our shoulds aren't based on our actual values or desires. They're based on programming we absorbed from family, society, or media. Start distinguishing between what you genuinely want and what you've been told you should want. This isn't about becoming selfish or irresponsible. This is about becoming authentic. When you're clear about what you actually value, you can make choices that align with those values. When you're operating from someone else's blueprint, you're always going to feel off balance, no matter how successful you become by external standards. Third step, build in small spaces for authenticity. You don't have to blow up your entire life overnight, but you need to create some areas where you can be genuinely yourself without performance or pretense. Maybe it's a hobby that nobody else understands. Maybe it's conversations with one person who actually sees you. Maybe it's time alone where you don't have to be productive or useful to anyone. These spaces are like muscle memory for your authentic self. The more you practice being real in small, safe contexts, the easier it becomes to access that authenticity in bigger situations. And here's what's interesting. When you start showing up authentically, you attract people and opportunities that actually fit who you are, rather than who you've been pretending to be. Fourth step, develop your own metrics for success. The system gave you a measuring stick that measures everything, Accept what actually matters to you. Time to build your own. What does a good day look like for you? What does meaningful work feel like? What kind of relationships actually nourish you? What kind of man do you want to be when nobody's watching? Write this down. Make it specific. Because if you don't define success for yourself, someone else will define it for you. And their definition will be designed to serve their interests, not yours. Your metrics might include things like time for deep thinking, work that uses your natural strengths, relationships where you can be vulnerable, physical vitality, creative expression, or contribution to something bigger than yourself. Here's the weird thing that happens when you stop playing someone else's game. You actually become more successful, not less. But it's a different kind of success. It's the kind that doesn't require you to constantly prove yourself because it's based on alignment rather than achievement. When you start operating from your authentic values and desires, you make better decisions. You choose work that actually uses your strengths. You build relationships with people who see and appreciate who you really are. You invest your energy in things that compound over time, rather than things that just look good in the short term. People start treating you differently too. There's something about a man who knows what he wants and why he wants it that commands respect. Not the performative respect that comes from titles or achievements, but the genuine respect that comes from integrity and authenticity. You become someone that other men want to learn from, not because you're trying to teach them, but because you're living in a way that looks genuinely satisfying. Women respond differently to you as well. Instead of being attracted to your achievements or your potential, they're attracted to your presence and your certainty. You're not looking for someone to complete you or validate you. You're looking for someone to share a life with. That completely changes the dynamic of your relationships. You also become more creative and innovative. When you're not constantly worried about fitting in or meeting other people's expectations, your brain has more space for original thinking. You start seeing solutions that other people miss because you're not locked into conventional ways of thinking. You become valuable in ways that can't be easily replaced or replicated. The most surprising thing? You become happier, but not in the way that the self-help books promise. It's not constant positivity or endless motivation. It's more like contentment. It's the satisfaction of knowing that your choices are yours, that your life reflects your actual values, and that you're not living someone else's script. Look, I'm not telling you to quit your job tomorrow or burn down everything you've built. I'm telling you to start asking better questions. Instead of, how can I be more successful? Ask, what does success actually mean to me? Instead of, how can I fit in better? Ask, where do I actually belong? Instead of, what's wrong with me? Ask, what's wrong with this game? The system needs you to believe that your dissatisfaction is a personal failing, that your restlessness is immaturity, that your desire for something more meaningful is unrealistic. But what if none of that's true? What if your dissatisfaction is intelligence? What if your restlessness is your soul trying to get your attention? What if your desire for meaning is exactly what's going to save you from a life of quiet desperation? You've been told that being a man means grinding through whatever life throws at you, keeping your head down, providing for others, and never complaining. But that's not strength. That's just endurance. Real strength is having the courage to admit when something isn't working and the wisdom to change course. The guys who built the life they actually wanted didn't do it by following someone else's blueprint. They did it by paying attention to their own experience, trusting their own instincts, and having the balls to disappoint people who expected them to be something they weren't. So here's my question for you. Are you going to keep trying to win at a game that was designed to keep you running in circles? Or are you going to step back, figure out what game you actually want to play, and start playing it? Because here's the thing, you're not failing. You never were. You were just trying to succeed at something that wasn't worth succeeding at. And the moment you realize that, everything changes. If this hit you somewhere deep, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. I'm not here to make you feel better about mediocrity. I'm here to help you build a life that's actually worth living. And when you're ready for the next piece of the puzzle, check out the video that's about to pop up. Trust me, if this one got your attention, the next one's going to challenge everything you think you know about what it means to be strong. Until then, stop apologizing for who you are. The world needs men who think for themselves, not men who follow scripts. I'll see you in the next one.